I'm pulling them in. We're going to be debating about PewDiePie, I guess. I have no idea what the main topic of the debate is, but I think we should do fine. The Oat
Hello.
Crasher, how you doing?
How is the volume?
You sound good. Just go ahead and talk again. I'm going to see if it's good on desktop audio.
Okay.
Yeah, you sound good. You sound good. You sound like you're more or less at the same volume as me.
Okay.
Nice. Alrighty. So, do you mind if I record this debate and it goes up on YouTube, or are you not okay with
Yes.
that? Okay, cool.
Yes, I
So,
have no problem as long as, people know who it is, right? Is that fine?
don't know who it is, or do know?
No, no, who it is.
Okay, yeah. You can just sort of say who you are and what you're here to debate for.
Okay. So basically, I'm just here to have a debate about something that there was already a debate about, but that it seems like you haven't changed your mind unless you have. But a debate about PewDiePie being a white moderate, except for these are different arguments than the other ones that were made in that other debate. So,
A white moderate. So, really quickly, could you clarify what your definition of white moderate is?
so that this is my question: is for white moderate, specifically, like you were bringing up the Martin Luther King Jr. quote. Is that what you mean?
More
Okay.
or less, yeah.
So
Just generally people who are typically in a privileged position. White moderate can extend to people who aren't necessarily white, but it's typically used as an allegory or sort of a broader usage for people that are in a privileged position that because they aren't particularly affected by politics or the state of the world, they're
yes.
willing to sort of turn a blind eye to it for the most part and not really talk or engage in any type of soft activism for
Okay.
or against a cause.
So is your best argument the Martin Luther King Jr. quote? Because I want to look into that.
No, I mean, that's not really my argument. My argument mostly stems on the idea that
Well, it
my
was used
main
before.
grievance, yeah, I mean, I've called PewDiePie part of the white moderate, but that's not close to my biggest issue with PewDiePie. My biggest issue with PewDiePie seems to be the fact that he seems unwilling or maybe hesitant to call out particular people
Okay.
in his community or around his community that have done some pretty bad shit. I know he's taken to like disavowing like the Christchurch shooter and whatnot, and it clearly upset him.
Yes.
And what confuses me about that is why he hasn't really like done
Yes.
more to
I
talk
do
about that
understand.
issue.
It's about that he hasn't done enough. So, basically, my question, okay, not my question, but the points I'm going to make. I'm going to be looking at first the thing you were talking about before about the Martin Luther King Jr. quote, but not just that, but also about PewDiePie. About you saying that if he were to make a video calling out specific people who are white supremacists, Nazis, I'm going to specifically look into that, into different things. And so first, is it fine if I look into the Martin Luther King Jr. quote? Here, I
Um,
have it here already.
yeah, sure.
Is that fine?
hmm
So I will just read it and then I'll look into it and I'll tell you because I typed up many things down. So I'll just read it. Because you've used this quote before to make an argument that PewDiePie is a white moderate because you used a quote. Am I correct?
I believe so. The quote's usually referenced by anybody using the term white moderate,
Yes.
but yeah.
The letter from Birmingham jail. It was used in your last debate about PewDiePie, right?
I believe so.
Yes, it was because I looked back in the video. But anyways, so I'll read it. So, a letter from Birmingham jail from Martin Luther King Jr. So I'll read the specific parts that you emphasize. So, I must take two confessions to you, my Christian and Jewish brothers. First, I must confess that over the past few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the N word's great stumbling block in his stride toward freedom is not the white citizen's counselor or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action. So specifically, I want to look at the quote here about the idea that what it makes you a white moderate is obviously specifically obviously what it says here, being devoted to order than to justice for a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to positive peace. So those specifically connected also to where he says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action. So PewDiePie, let's just say this quote does not define PewDiePie. I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action, because PewDiePie does agree with the methods of direct action, and PewDiePie has been part of the direct action.
Is there like
Specifically,
stuff?
if I can get into that.
Sure. Is there like a lot of stuff that PewDiePie has done or has been a part of that I'm just not
Examples?
aware of?
So you want some examples?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
I don't really watch
so
PewDiePie anymore, so if you actually have some examples of him engaging in and I'm not even asking for him to engage in like protests or anything like that, but if he has, that's
oh
pretty
no,
pog.
not protest,
Or
but
like coming out and
I will
speaking
send you a
out,
link.
stuff like that.
Yes, I will send you a link. I'll send you a link here in the direct message. Okay, this is a link to his like there was a recording of his live stream that was obviously for black, like not specifically, but he did tell people to protest for, like, Black Lives Matter. But I'll look into so I send you a link. You see the link there?
Yeah. Here,
So
I'll take
I'm
a
just
look at
going
it.
to read the quotes from the video.
No,
And
can I just play the
I have the
link or?
timestamps.
Yeah, if you have the timestamps, I want to see it. Because usually when I
Yes.
argue, because I don't know if you've seen it, but before I came to California, I argued with somebody as to whether or not PewDiePie is a Nazi, and the person that I was debating took the position that PewDiePie was alt-right or a Nazi, and I was like bringing up examples of how I'm pretty
Okay.
sure he's not, so I'd
So
like to
I
see
have
this.
examples of what he said in the live stream, and so this is let me see what specifically. PewDiePie full charity live stream June 4th. Okay, so at 5 minutes and 21 seconds, that's the timestamp. He says, I do not support any riots or looting, but it's still important to protest if you can, but please be safe. I will get into this. So that's from 5 minutes, 21 seconds
Okay, here.
timestamp to
I'm gonna.
5 minute and 31 seconds timestamp. But I have
Okay, I'm gonna.
one more example,
Can I,
actually,
can
two
I
examples.
can I play the clip? I want to see the clip.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, I wanted the first bit,
5:21.
the first third to be
5:31.
we need to stop the riots and make people protest. Riots damages the planet and the environment. Protesting
Give me-
makes it so word
You said
gets
you're gonna
spread.
play the clip?
Absolutely. I
Okay.
do not support any riots or looting, but it's still important to protest if you can. But please be safe. I will get into this.
Okay, so what's he saying the other clip? I see nothing particularly objectionable here. It's a little bit white moderately like, oh yeah, riots are bad, because typically.
I have more. I have two more quotes. So well, I guess one more quote, but I'll just read this also at 6:13, 6 minutes and 13 seconds. He says this: Black people are going to jail for longer periods despite the same crime, mass incarceration. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
This is something that started in the 80s, and incarceration has increased in America with 500% since then.
Damn, based.
And then he says, this charity I picked, the Sentencing Project, works to combat that. So I think it's a really good charity. That's from 6 minutes, 30 seconds, timestamp to 6:37. So you can play that.
Okay.
If you want to.
No, I'll take your word for it. I think I just wanted to see the first clip to get an idea of like what his general mentality was going into it. But no,
And
it
then
seems like I don't see anything
also-
objectionable with that.
Okay. And then also, I just want to say, when it came to at 15 minutes and 2 seconds, 15:02, when he looking specifically at the protests, he says, "Oh, protest," but he corrects himself and says, "peacefully protesting." Um, so that's obviously he was trying to emphasize that the people were peacefully protesting, where specifically it was he was looking at a tweet. But that's just some bits from the live stream that I sent you the link of that recorded live stream. So he might have said more, but just tell me what you think of that.
I think it's pretty non-objectionable. I like that PewDiePie took like a step to speak out about a good cause and whatnot, and a big
So-
issue that people are facing. My only
Yes.
gripe with this isn't necessarily a gripe with what he said. It's a gripe in which in the context that he said it, right? So, like, for example, what I've been saying for a while is, and I don't know if this would be as appropriate now because it's, been so long, but I wouldn't be against it, is the fact that, like, after what the fuck? After the Christchurch shooting, I would have really liked if he made I think the Christchurch shooting was where I really want him to do it. If he had made a video, like, specifically calling out the particular groups that were even mentioned in the Christchurch Shooters Manifesto and being like, hey, these people need to be stopped. I know some of them are in my community. It's like a big problem. I've never had any doubts, and I've reiterated this multiple times, that PewDiePie is a progressive person. I've seen his videos even up as recently as like last year, where he's like talking positively about like gay people and whatnot. I think recently his Spotify playlist leaked, and he really likes Sophie. Like, he's got several Sophie songs in his Spotify playlist. So for any of the gays in my audience, you probably know who that is and how it'd be weird if an alt-writer was listening to Sophie music. So I've never thought that he isn't, like, progressive, but my main issue has just been the audience or the amount of people he's reached when he does espouse his progressive views, because my problem isn't that with what he is doing or what he believes, it's the fact that Nazis and alt-writers believe that he is one of them. Even if they're incorrect, that's still a problem. They shouldn't feel welcome in the largest community, like the largest YouTuber on Earth's community, in my opinion.
Yes, but going back specifically, do you agree with this quote that white moderate, that this defines a white moderate, this quote, "I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action"? Yes or no?
If you want to go really hard on the exact wording that Martin Luther King used, you can, but typically the term white moderate nowadays isn't necessarily used to refer to people who say specifically that, or have that particular mindset. It's usually referring to people who recognize or know that there's like a larger problem, but aren't necessarily willing to dedicate themselves more, with more conviction against that problem, right? So when PewDiePie had those, like, Nazis in his audience, he wasn't really speaking out against them in a way that would have been more appropriate, in my opinion. And that's why I use that phrase to describe him.
Yes, but that's one of those things where it's like, oh, wait, let me reverse for a second here. You still believe PewDiePie is a white moderate?
By my wording,
Yes or
yes. By Martin Luther King's wording, no. But my wording, yes.
So what's your wording?
My wording is
Because
somebody...
direct action.
Oh, shit. I'm not referring to the protest shit. That's what Martin Luther King Jr. was referring to. You understand that, like, a word or a definition can change over time as our political landscape evolves, language evolves, and so on?
Yes. I'm saying, yeah, obviously, 1963, the letter was written. What I'm saying is that even based upon, if things were changed, thing is that he doesn't just agree with the methods of direct action. He's also done direct action by supporting the protests, by literally giving it a platform, giving it attention, but not just that, but also obviously he's not just doing that. He's not just giving like the protests platform, but also giving the different charities, like specifically the Sentencing Project, to combat what was going on, like you said, like incarceration, went up by 500%. It started in the 80s. Black people going to jail for longer periods despite the same crime. Like, he's obviously, like, to look at it, he is being much more like progressive than like someone else, where they would say, where they would just say, racism bad, you know what I mean? But it's like, obviously racism bad, there's so many people that say, Black Lives Matter, but they won't go out of their way to give it like different, like more things to help people, right?
Yeah, didn't he do like a
and
charity stream for BLM? Isn't that what that was from? Or I'm pretty sure that's what he did. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. My only gripe, like I said before, and the reason why I call him a white moderate is because he had this big problem in his audience for a while, and especially when it was at its fever pitch, he didn't really acknowledge it. I remember whenever the ER thing happened, he kind of made like a glib joke about it, how people were getting on his ass for unreasonable things, and it's like, well, no, that's not what's happening.
Because the thing was, he only like, you can disagree or agree with him, but he said like he only like watched one video or some videos or whatever, and he didn't like completely realize, like, you know, sometimes you think people are just being like edgy or whatever, because like, you know, there's even shows on television where the person is very progressive but they make edgy jokes that sound like you know, they make a Nazi joke, like, you know, Eric Andre. I don't think you know that show, but have you heard of that show?
I know what Eric Andre is. The problem is if you want to... So I will be willing to defend PewDiePie on this in my own way, and I'll explain my defense of him. It's not like a hard defense. It's more of a soft one in my own way in a second. But what the fuck? Sorry, I'm playing Dark Souls 2 right now. I don't know if you've ever played this game, but it's... I haven't played this in like a long time. So what? Okay. Yeah, no. So when it comes to the ER thing, my main issue, and I think this was the overwhelming like consensus among most people that took it, like issue with that, was that in the video that he mentioned liking, there was like a legitimate, pretty popular Nazi conspiracy theory about Charlottesville in it. Now it's very likely, or even it's very possible, or even likely that PewDiePie didn't know that, but like, there's a lot of evidence that existed before the shout out that PewDiePie gave ER that he's like...
But he never said
very problematic.
Video, did he?
I don't... He said he really enjoyed it. I imagine if you watch a video and you really enjoy it, and this is a creator that you're going to shout out, then you probably watched a substantial amount of his video, I would assume.
Sometimes you don't have to watch a whole video to enjoy it. Sometimes you'll watch a video and you'll enjoy it, and then you forget to go back to it, you know? So, you know, it's one of those things where we don't completely know, but, you know, I guess you can say whatever you want to say. So... Are you saying that PewDiePie would not be a white moderate, obviously, like you've said before, if he were to call out specifically...
Wait, I'm curious. Why are you so hung up... Wait, why are you so hung up on the white moderate thing? Is that the only, like, thing that you take issue with me saying about PewDiePie?
Yes, because you're saying he is a white moderate.
But I've literally explained that the definition of white moderate has changed. It's not what Martin Luther King Jr. wrote. And you're trying to get me on the definition that Martin Luther King wrote in his essay. You understand that, like, the way that politics is...
Debate, that's the only reason why. That's the only reason why, because you brought it up.
I'm curious. When was this? Which debate did I do this in? Was it the one where I was defending PewDiePie against claims he was a Nazi?
Yes, obviously.
Okay, yeah.
I want to specifically look at then, since the other stuff, but specifically about what you want him or need him to do, or that he needs to call out specific people. Here's a little bit of problems with that. Not just like not just making up like theories, even though you could say it, but just since like I'll quickly explain.
Do you mind if I check something really quick? I'm really curious. I just want to check something very quick.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just in regards to the context in which this was said. When was this charity stream, and when did I say that...
Two videos of yours. One was the PewDiePie debate, and another one was a video about PewDiePie.
Yeah, the one about PewDiePie... The video about PewDiePie would have been way before the debate. So I'm curious. When did I do that?
It was one video and another one. You talked about a Martin Luther King Jr. quote.
Mm-hmm. Here, I'm curious. I'm just going back to... I would have been in Florida. So this would have been a while ago. Hold on. Xander Hall, PewDiePie. Let's see. Debate with PewDiePie fan. Should he call out? Yeah, July 1st. Okay. So this is from July 1st. And this is from... Okay, this is from June. Nice. So it seems like even before I had that debate, PewDiePie had said this. So my problem is, and I said this before... Why would PewDiePie engage in this type of rhetoric? Or, I mean, I don't think it's like a question, but I'm just curious why he wouldn't do it in a more public, like, place, you know, like on his channel in a video or something. Like, I know that stream probably had a lot of viewers, but it would have been nice if he did it in a video, because, like,
Yeah, well,
You
it's
would
still
expect.
his public in his community tab. Like in his community tab, he has the thing still about the announcement that he was gonna have charity
Uh-huh.
stream.
Yeah, it just seems like my main issue is that, like,
Well, I think the thing is because there was some problems obviously in the charity live stream where some people could point out specific things like, he's like a little bit nervous, so he's laughing or whatever because, trying to be serious or whatever. So some people could take that like, out of context a little bit or something like that.
well, I remember what ended up happening, and this was like really frustrating for me, was that when PewDiePie did his video where he was going to donate to the ADL, which I don't think he ended up doing, but a lot of people
Yeah.
like were like
The
conspiracy
problem was
mongering about it. A lot of Nazi
the
people.
problem was, yeah, that, but also that Tim Pool, of course, when PewDiePie, right, in his video, he said he was going to donate to ADL. Then there was a Tim Pool video saying, "Oh, why would he, donate money to these people who are against him or whatever?" And like, what do you think Tim Pool is? Because I don't like Tim Pool. I just like Tim Pool. But
He's just a
you think-
grifter. Like, I really, well,
yeah.
to
Okay,
be fair,
so-
I've heard from people that I do trust, like Vosh, for example, that they're pretty sure Tim Pool actually believes the bullshit that he spouts. But like, I think Tim Pool is just pure populism, in the sense that more right-leaning populism,
Oh.
in that he just doesn't like the establishment. And he believes
Tim
the establishment
Pool-
are Democrats.
Okay, can I quickly say something? Even though I completely disagree, like with Tim Pool, with all the other dumb stuff he says, but Tim Pool obviously made a video about how he was against the death penalty, and a bunch of people disliked it in his audience because there are a bunch of whatever conservative.
Yeah, being
Republican
anti-death
alt-right.
penalty and being anti-war is just anti-establishment.
So obviously, like Tim Pool is, he did I forget what's called, Wall Street protest. I forget what was it.
The Occupy Wall Street.
Occupy Wall Street, and also he's against the death penalty. So those things, people who are alt-right and conservative Republican, they won't, they kind of don't like those parts about Tim Pool, obviously. So he probably is a grifter because he does believe in some progressive ideas, if you want to call him that, I guess.
Wait, what do you think a grifter is?
Grifter is someone who politically, like, it's to make money, right?
It's when you lie about your beliefs and just espouse what you say to make
like
money.
Candace Owens.
Yeah,
right?
Candace Owens is a perfect example of a grifter because there's a shit ton of evidence that she's like she genuinely doesn't believe what she believes in. And while Tim Pool is certainly out for the money in many respects, I don't know if I agree with like the idea that he doesn't believe what he believes. He certainly believes what he espouses, I think. As shitty as his beliefs are, it seems like he actually does believe it.
Sorry if I drifted on a little bit over there, but now I guess I want to put this back on track to specifically, right, would PewDiePie no longer be a white moderate if he were to make a video calling out the white supremacists, white nationalists, the alt-right, Nazis, and educating people about this, saying how these people, what they're doing is incorrect, wrong, and bad, and that people shouldn't even flirt with the idea of these, even with the memes or even with the jokes that people in the alt-right do in that type of culture.
Didn't he do that like earlier this year or something? I thought I saw something about him doing that.
It's only to do with the hate symbol thing, right? It's only to do with the hate symbol thing.
I think like originally. So, are you aware of like the events that happened back when the Christchurch shooter first occurred, or the Christchurch shooting first occurred?
Okay, I understand.
So
can I just ask this question then? So let me just rewind. Okay, what would make PewDiePie no longer a white moderate? That's my question.
Just him like generally like acknowledging the fact that the alt-right seems to view him as like one of them, and that he does not agree with that kind of shit, and he wants to like calling out these specific people who've been doing this kind of shit on like these Chan boards and whatnot, specifically saying like this is a problem.
Okay, let me tackle that then. You're saying that would make him no longer a white moderate. That's right. That's what you're saying, right?
I guess, yeah.
Okay, so let me tackle that then. If he were to make that video that you would say would make him no longer a white moderate, you guessed, right? Like you said,
I mean, yeah, it
there's
just kind
some
of depends on the
problems there.
context where it happens. Like, if it seems disingenuous or something, or he's just doing it
There's
to
like
get a hot
problems,
water,
right?
then yeah.
This is the example I wanted to make was with the ADL thing. It was thanks to people who were being like, oh, these people, you know, they're kind of the reason why blah 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 news articles or you lost your show or whatever. So like Tim Pool and so many other people who may be on the alt right, or maybe they're maybe conservative or whatever, or centrist, and they're like, oh, why would you, you know, donate to the ADL when they're against you, the ADL. So my idea would be, if PewDiePie did make that type of video where you would want him to, what would you say in a short sentence, like what would he be doing
In the video, like
in that
what
video?
I so
Yeah.
this was the dream,
Say it again.
okay, okay, okay. This was the
Okay, what
dream.
is it?
Back when the Christchurch shooting happened, he got like the little shout out by the.
I'm not talking about the past, I'm talking about right now. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
if
I
you
know.
were to
I'm
make a video
explaining
right
to you
now.
right now. Just give me a second, dude.
Okay.
So this would be
Right.
the dream. He would open up his video and he would be like, "Okay, listen, guys. I don't usually get into politics on my channel, but yada yada yada," explaining why he's doing it, and then go into like the Christchurch shooting, how it was like a terrible act perpetuated by a horrific ideology, how it's like a huge problem that he's seen a ton of people that are adjacent to his community believing that he's part of that community, the alt-right, and that they believe that he shares the same hateful beliefs as he does. Those people aren't welcome in his community. He doesn't want them anywhere around. He doesn't want them influencing his audience or believing that he's on their side. Just generally like a statement like that would be nice, like in a video. That's what I was really hoping
Okay,
for, because that's
so
been my main
could I
problem the whole
say,
time.
because I wanted it to be, yeah, I wanted it to be simple for me to like, so like would a short form be like a statement against the alt-right?
Not
Can I use
not in
that
like a
small?
tweet. Not like in short form, yeah. A
Oh,
public
I mean in
open
a video.
statement against the alt-right. In a video, yeah, yeah. I know he
Oh,
made like a vague tweet, but yeah.
I'm trying to say for a sentence, you know, I'm trying to, so I can like get into my points, right?
Yeah,
Because I
sure.
don't want a long sentence. So, okay, so if he were to make that video, that's a statement against the alt-right. The problem is, like with his other video he had where he said he was going to donate to the ADL, you know, people could bring up like, actually, no, sorry, that's not a good example. Okay, so if he were to make that video that's a statement against the alt-right, someone who's like, you know, in the alt-right, or people who wouldn't say they're alt-right, they'll say, oh, they're Republican or conservative or whatever, Donald Trump supporters, you know, someone could try to make, you know, PewDiePie seem like, oh, he supports censorship, he supports, you know, like he supports censorship, he's against freedom of speech, because, oh, what is he trying to get at here? He's calling out these people. Who is he going to call out next, right? People who, like, you know what I mean? So, you know, there will be those people who have a huge, by the way, people who have a huge fan base like Steven Crowder. You don't think Steven Crowder would freak out? He'd be like even Steven Crowder is really weird about racism, right? About
Hmm.
like, oh, what's a white supremacist, right? You know Steven Crowder, right? What he said about, oh, what is a
Yeah,
white
I
supremacist,
covered
right?
Steven Crowder yesterday. I'm very aware of his beliefs.
Yes. So you know how there's people will be reactionary and they'll be like, I'm not, right. They'll be like, oh, obviously I agree with everything PewDiePie said in his video, but you know, people can get, you know, people with, you know, obviously they're not as big as PewDiePie, but you know, there's people who even have like 5 million, like Steven Crowder, who are like, I believe in everything he said in his video, but you know, against the alt-right, but it seems like, you know, maybe he's trying to hint at something against the Republicans or conservatives. You know, people are going to start calling us the alt-right or whatever, and they're trying to connect the dots. They'll try to connect the
So you think you should
metaphorical
abstain from
dots.
doing the right thing because people are going to conspiracy
I
monger
have
about
other
him?
points. That's my one point. Now my second point. It would not matter because the majority of PewDiePie's audience already would agree with everything he would say. I guess that could be still debatable. But also, my third point would be, you can, like, you know, you can use your ideal world, you know, of, you know, that video coming out and everything, you know, goes fine. He makes a statement against the alt-right and all people are all good with it except for the alt-right, and the alt-right are like, or the alt-right, like you've said before, they don't care if he says, oh, that he's against racism, or oh, he's makes an apology, or something like that, because there's people who are in the alt-right who will say, hey, he's just getting the media off his back. Specifically, let me look here. They'll like, there will be people in the alt-right who'll try to pretend like, because we already seen this with the Donald Trump, with the votes, right, saying that, oh, Donald Trump won, right?
Mhm.
So how they're not just people who are in the alt-right, but just some people who are not very smart, where they'll say, oh, he won, it's all rigged or whatever. But people who'll be like, oh, he's just pretending, he's acting, this is a parody, he's just pretending to have this statement against the alt-right, he's just really trying to get people off his back. And then they could use you, like, as an example, as someone who said, he should make this video, and it'd be like, there you go, he made this video because of what this person said, he's just faking it, it's all just parody, and he's just really good at acting, he's actually with us, he's pretending to be with them, where there's those. So it goes down kind of to what you said about where he'll make a statement, but they'll be like, nah, he's just lying, you know
Well, I don't
and
really
it's
think
just a
that's a valid
cover-up.
argument against him doing the right thing, though. I understand what your concern is, because this has happened before whenever he made the announcement he was going to donate to the ADL, but then he gave into that shit. Whenever they started conspiracy mongering about it, and then like going to him being like, oh, see what they said about you? He acquiesced to like the
What if
drama
it's
that
worse?
happened because of it. What if it's worse? What, he's going to take down the video in which he disavows the
No, let me
alt-right?
quickly
That would be a
no,
bigger
Let
problem.
me quickly explain. What if it's worse? It's already like bad. You could say it was bad enough with the alt-right trying to claim PewDiePie as their guy. What if, even if he makes that video, having a statement against the alt-right, they'll try their hardest to basically take all his videos where he has said stuff that's edgy or whatever, and they'll try to even more, they try to push their propaganda more and more to even claim him, and create this false narrative that he's lying and that he's just trying not to get canceled or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if it causes more uproar from the alt-right to like manipulate media
I don't think that's a
of
valid
PewDiePie?
I just don't think it's a valid argument against him speaking out against these groups. Like, yeah, of
Well,
course. If the alt-right,
yeah.
the alt-right are a bunch of fucking conspiracy mongers. That's the way they are. So should like a public figure where a bunch of terrible like Nazi people believe that they're part of that group, should that public figure never call out that group because they might think that it's just like media blackmail or something? Like, you would never hold this. You would never really hold this. At least realistically, or I would hope, you wouldn't hold this same standard for anybody else. I would hope.
Also, gets into the thing with people who are not political who are in his audience, and how this video would be such, overwhelming for someone who isn't political and doesn't know much about, about the alt-right, and obviously, right, because he has younger fans, obviously, and then he has older fans, obviously. So there's kind of a thing where it
But
could cause, like,
you don't think that young people should learn that racism is bad and
think it would cause
dangerous?
more harm than good. I think
I
it would
really
cause
don't
more
think
harm.
it could. I think Nazis feeling like, I feel like even for PewDiePie's career, okay? Do you know how like, at least career-wise, how shitty, or even just for his own emotional health? I know for a fact that after the Christchurch shooter said his name before murdering 50 people, I know how much that probably fucked with PewDiePie. Wouldn't you think that sort of washing your hands clean of that and then like staying firm on your statements against the alt-right, don't you think that would be better for PewDiePie's mental health and his career?
There's also one more thing well, not one more thing. I think I might have some more things to say, but if someone were to see this, obviously the majority of people are gonna be glad that PewDiePie made a video that's a statement against the alt-right, obviously, right? The majority. And the thing is that there's some people, like, not some people, but there could be a chance where it might cause a shift in some of his fans, because they'll see how, like, oh, these people are, and now the biggest YouTuber is against this, and they'll start, some people might be thinking, and it's like some people try to have like an anti-majority opinion, because they'll be like, or against the popular opinion or against the public opinion, and cause a small, like more people at a smaller community of people who were PewDiePie fans until he did that because they'll think maybe, you know, freedom of truth, right? For the people be truthful about, you know, hating someone instead of being a secret racist, you know?
Wouldn't people who just want to be counterculture and edgy, wouldn't they just go alt-right anyway, even if PewDiePie didn't say anything? I feel like with somebody with as massive of a very loyal fan base as PewDiePie has, there's no case in which the overall, like, net gain that we get from it is lesser than if he just hadn't spoke out
You
against
have
them at
to
all.
understand that, like, the time we're living in with the internet, with memes and different types of culture, like on Discord and all that, it's oversaturated with different information, and if you're not smart enough, you can get yourself into believing something. You can be manipulated, like even for the algorithm. If PewDiePie were to make a video that, like I was saying again, a statement, make a video that's a statement against the alt-right, you don't think in the recommended there possibly will be, you know, like a Steven Crowder or some other YouTuber who will be in the recommended and making a response video and trying to convince people like, hey, I'm glad that, you know, he called them out and had a statement against the alt-right, but, you know, maybe he's trying to be against freedom of speech. Oh, maybe he's trying to censor ideas or whatever, right? And there'll be people, so there could be a chance, you know, or if someone searches up the response to his statement against the alt-right.
So you think because somebody could respond... Oh, fuck. God damn it.
There could be a
I got
dangerous
Gridwood.
shift.
I really don't think that PewDiePie calling out the alt-right would result in more of his audience being exposed to it, especially if it was more of like an educational video, like what he did with the BLM thing in the in that stream, like how he talked about the incarceration stuff like that. If he said, "Hey, you probably haven't heard about them, but there's this group called the alt-right. They're really bad. They think I'm one of them." Yada yada yada. I feel like that would be, like, if it was somewhat educational, that would sort of eliminate this possibility way more.
I have a quick question. I forget. I'm trying to use this as an example. What's the name of that person? Page. The last name is
Elliot Page?
celebrity.
Elliot Page.
Elliot Page.
Yeah, yeah.
So you seen what happened when like it was like when you know, obviously what I forget what it is when Elliot Page, you know, came out as like a man, like as transgender, right? And you've seen Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder, and I think even some others, obviously like making, you know. So, and that's the thing where, you know, that was being accepted by a lot of people. Of course,
right? Anytime
you know, because
we call these people reactionaries for a reason. When good things happen, good, like, progressive change happens, they get mad about it. That's why we call them reactionaries.
Yeah. And don't you think the biggest progressive change would be someone who has like 100 million subscribers and then completely shuts down the alt-right? You don't think they try to create like some type of like shift where they try to get their propaganda out with like Google ads or whatever or something, and be like, this person is against freedom of speech and you know, they're pro censorship, and you know what I mean? Because they're like funded by like millionaires like Steven Crowder.
They're gonna do that anyway, except now they get to say to the little Zoomers that are watching their videos, "Hey, look, PewDiePie agrees with this. Look, PewDiePie, he's based. Look how he got attacked by the media." Instead of being able to say, and no longer being able to say, "Oh, well, PewDiePie was blackmailed by the media," whatever. Like, that's a bigger stretch than, "Oh, look, PewDiePie's show got taken down because he is in favor of freedom of speech."
Look how many people believed in the thing with the election. Like, that's crazy. Like how people believe in the conspiracy theories. So, and you don't think it'll like literally with Steven Crowder, he has like 5 million subscribers. You don't think it'll get worse if like, because obviously I agree with PewDiePie doing it, obviously making a statement against the alt-right, but the problem is,
you understand that PewDiePie within a week on a single video typically gets close to or around as many views as Steven Crowder has subscribers, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, the problem is that we don't like, you can say like that can make him no longer a white moderate, but we don't know under like specific context what will happen, you know, after that video would be uploaded. You know, so you can't say that would like you can say it can make him no longer white moderate, but what does that? What's the risk with that? With such a big platform?
The risk is people get educated about how bad the alt-right is, and you have one of the
It's
largest
not the
figures on
risk.
YouTube.
No, I'm saying the risk is the reaction from the reactionaries and the racists, or those who are like, oh, sure, I don't support the racists, but I would fight for their right to be racist. Those people, right, who aren't racist, but they'll be like, oh, rather have someone be truthful about being racist than them being a secret racist, right?
What? Why are you so? They're gonna do this anyway. It feels so weird to me that you're so against PewDiePie speaking out against these groups. It's really weird because
But you've seen what happened even before with Donald Trump. The whole idea was like, you've seen what happened on YouTube with the algorithm, with the anti-SJW propaganda,
Wait,
and
why do you think?
also
Why do you think?
the
Wait, I'm curious.
feminist
I'm curious. I'm curious. Have you seen my video about how I fell down the alt-right rabbit hole?
I know that. That's why I'm trying to make this
Okay,
connection to you.
okay,
I'm
cool,
trying
cool,
to tell you.
cool. Because I'm gonna make a connection here too. Why do you think the anti-SJW community was so good at at pushing their ideas for so long? What do you think it was about their content or about the landscape at the time that made them so successful?
Repeat the question. Sorry.
What do you think
When
it is about YouTube at the time and the political landscape we lived in that made the anti-SJW community so successful?
Wait, the SJW
The
community?
anti-SJW community.
The anti-SJ community. Well, there's multiple things. Would say, well, obviously PewDiePie was a part of it, but also there was other YouTubers.
Nothing to do with
who were-
PewDiePie. Nothing to do with PewDiePie. Don't worry about that.
Well, okay, yeah, but people like H Free, or like even Leafy is here, like talking about these crazy feminists, right? I was saying, okay, so you're saying why the anti-SJW community was so popular? Because I think it was.
I can answer that question for you because I kind of went through this. So the reason why it was able to get so popular is because you had a legion of demagogue of like these right wing or even like claiming to be centrist or genuinely center or left leaning people that were doing this content, and there wasn't an
Getting
effective
the worst out of the pile, yeah, like when the people are reacting. Yeah.
And not just that, but there wasn't anybody speaking out against it. Any channels that were like left leaning at the time, back in like 2014 to 2017, that had even the slightest amount of viewership were massively bombarded by the fan bases of these right-wing channels. There was nobody around to argue against this kind of shit. Nobody with any type of serious platform. And so that's my problem. If somebody with as massive a platform as PewDiePie spoke out against this alt-right shit, that would be fucking insane. It's all like, I think recently there was a really big YouTuber that like spoke out against the alt-right or something, and it was pog as fuck. But yeah, this is never a bad thing. It is never a bad thing when a large public figure speaks out, especially the largest public figure on YouTube, speaks out against like the alt-right. There's no bad or no net negative that comes from it.
Yeah, sorry. It's just because I think negative about certain things because the doomer type of mindset or whatever, right? So thinking even if he does it, how will the people react? Will they try to push more of their propaganda and try to, you know what I'm trying to say?
Nothing that happens will make them push more of their propaganda. These people aren't like holding back, okay? These people are going as hard as they possibly can. They know what they need to do to try to make their political views survive. What they thrive off of is edgy, disaffected young people, and there not being a large enough platform of people pushing up against their beliefs. That is what they thrive off of. They also have the money and the power to pump the YouTube algorithm full of content to spread their propaganda, okay? No amount of speaking out against them is going to make them go harder. All it does is hurt them. The more anti-alt-right sentiment that we push onto public platforms, the better. None of this none of this idea that PewDiePie speaking out against them is going to make things worse has any facts behind it. It just makes no sense.
Okay, I actually believe. Okay, I think I do understand, because actually backtracking to something that I was very amazed by how it actually worked out was specifically, I guess I could say, like with specifically with Pokimane, Disguise, Toast, Valkyrie, and Myth, and I believe also it was, I forget what the other person's name is, but with the Among Us, with playing Among Us with AOC, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously it's like, so yeah, I know. So I know that it seems like, from what I looked at the videos, it seemed like majority were fine with that. Probably maybe because they don't know enough about EOC, or maybe they do and they do support. But it seemed like the majority of them were, it was positive reception, and there
Mm-hmm.
wasn't as much negative reception.
It was one of the
Um,
most viewed Twitch streams that's ever happened. Yeah, it
no,
was
there's
massive.
YouTube videos. Yeah, there's YouTube videos
Well, even when it
of
was
like
live,
1 million
there were
views.
like over 100. I think there was a few 100,000 people watching at one point on AOC's stream alone. That's not even counting like Hassan and Pokimane and everybody and Corpse Husband and everyone else's views whenever they were playing with AOC. This was massive. This was a huge event, met with like extremely positive reception.
Okay, so anyways, I want to go really back to what you define as a white moderate, because obviously, since this is debate between me and you, again, what is your definition then of a white moderate in this time?
Why do you
Since you
keep
say
getting
it
hung
changed.
up on white moderate? Okay, sure. My definition of white moderate is somebody who recognizes that there is a massive problem of systemic injustice and hate groups and whatnot in the world at the moment. I'd say the alt-right is a pretty big threat to like democracy and people's rights. And while knowing that these people are a problem, are hesitant or unwilling to speak out definitively against them, to use the power behind their platform in the case of PewDiePie to outright denounce these people, and not only that, but push hard to change the public reception of these people from being, oh, they're just edgy memers on 4chan, to this is a serious group that takes part in act like they've done terrorist attacks. People get radicalized on these forums to commit acts of terror. PewDiePie knows this. The fact that he hasn't gone out and spoken definitively against them is what I take issue with, and that's why I called him a white moderate.
Okay, so, but people would not really say the same thing. They would quote more of the quote, right? They would, as the definition of of a white moderate, right? Would that be the majority? Look at that quote.
I'm sorry, but the way you worded that was kind of strange. Could you repeat that?
Okay, the Martin Luther King Jr. Quote, his letter to Birmingham, letter from Birmingham jail. You said that like how many like you said like people usually refer to that quote from Martin Luther King Jr. of the "I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action."
So okay, hold on. I'm going to give a bit of a history lesson for context of this quote, right? So a lot of people have this belief, I guess this is taught in schools a lot, that Martin Luther King engaged in peaceful civil disobedience, right? No riots, nothing like that. This was not the case. The civil rights riots led by Martin Luther King absolutely got violent.
I know.
There was absolutely tons of property damage, and the arguments you see against BLM
I know.
today are identical to the ones made back then. So when we're talking about it today, we're not necessarily referring to civil rights movements or rioting or whatever. That's what it meant back in the 60s. When we talk about the white moderate, we're talking about those that are willing to sort of turn a blind eye to problems in society. I agree and like that PewDiePie spoke out in favor of BLM and encouraged his audience to engage in that direct action stuff. However, I don't agree with PewDiePie being so hesitant or unwilling to definitively call out the alt-right, identify them as a problem, and not speak about them, particularly after a neo-Nazi who is radicalized by these types of people committed a terror. Actually, there were two neo-Nazis who committed terrorist attacks, mentioning PewDiePie and then committing these acts of terror. Regardless of whether or not those people were trolling, they still mentioned him, and they are still tangentially related to his community, and I feel like PewDiePie needs to acknowledge that, and his unwillingness to do so is a problem for me. I don't think it's malice, and I don't think it's him being secretly a Nazi. I know he isn't. I'm very, very positive, very confident he's not, but I still take issue with his unwillingness to do that, and that is why I called him a white moderate.
Yes, but one more thing, I don't know if there's anything that's changed with the thing, but there was something specifically about I don't know, it probably has changed, but there was something with YouTube where there's documentaries about um, like actual historical documentaries that obviously weren't racist or against racism, specific documentaries where like channels would be like videos would be taken down
Mhm.
because of the content it was talking about, right? So I don't know if that's changed, but that was one of another of my concern, that if PewDiePie were to make a video making a statement against them, but even though it's a statement against them, he's talking about specifically saying specific words that are really not just would make your video like not monetizable, but also restrict your video from specific ages, but could also take down your video because of the very sensitive content that he would be talking about in a video where he would be, being against the alt-right, you know what I mean?
So if we're talking about me, for example, I would understand what the fuck keeps happening when I come down here? So if we're talking about my channel, for example, I would understand this concern because of the fact that I don't have this, like, I don't really have, like, enough power at, say, YouTube, for example, to try and, like, resolve that complication. But I'm pretty sure PewDiePie has the audience size and enough support behind him that if he was mistakenly taken down by YouTube or harmed by YouTube in any way, then he would be able to, like, deal with that issue because of how many connections he has with YouTube. Not only that, but if this was true, my channel would be fucking dead. You realize I literally put Nazi and
Now, the
alt-right in
thing
my
is-
titles half the time, right?
thing is like, well, possibly, the alt-right could try to report it for right, and they could take advantage of that loophole or something, even though it'll take down his video and then YouTube will probably put it back up. So okay, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't feel like the alt-right retaliating, or just like conservatives or the alt-right, just that entire sort of area of politics
Okay.
retaliating
So
against
this
his
is my
claims
question.
is a good argument. I really don't.
Okay, so this is my question. So for the majority of people who would call someone a white moderate, would they go with your definition of what a white moderate is, or go with the definition of a white moderate, the quote, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action?
It depends on the context. Because this is the thing when it comes to words and definitions. This is a very popular phrase that originates from the 60s. We didn't have YouTubers back in the 60s with, like, massive amounts of social and, funnily enough, political power just because of how many people they can reach. So yeah, I think most people, if they were, like, in this context, would agree that he's behaving like a white
Yeah.
moderate.
Okay, let me be even more specific. There would probably be people like where your position is, you said democratic socialist, right?
Yeah. I identify
You-
more as a soc dem now, just because the
Would they?
pragmatic issues I
Yeah.
want to talk about.
I know. I watched the video. So would you say that the majority of people who are in your position, political position, of being a socialist democrat? Wait, is that right? What I said there?
Social democrat, I don't know if it
Yeah,
refers
okay.
specifically to socialist democrat. I don't know if that's what it
So
means, but
that's
you
my
can
question.
use that.
Would anyone who's in that specific political position, do you think that the majority of people would agree with not your definition, but the definition, that I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I cannot agree with your methods of direct action?
Like, about PewDiePie?
Yes, about being white moderate.
If they were unaware of, and I've argued with other leftists about this before, if they were unaware of the times PewDiePie's, like, talked about progressive issues, then I imagine they would, if they weren't, like, aware of his more progressive side. Yeah.
Is there, like, when you search up the definition of white moderate, or if you look at the letter from Birmingham jail from Martin Luther King Jr., the thing is, are you, like, is your definition justifiable? Like, is it like an actual definition, like, of calling out specifically the specific people, like groups, instead of just being against racism, right?
This sounds like
Just a
so
personal
semantic
definition
to
you-
me. No, it's not necessarily a personal definition. I'm using this definition in this context. Plenty of other people have used the term white moderate to refer to PewDiePie. Not just me.
Yes. Do you have an example, like, of, like, your definition of PewDiePie or other people's I would say it's personal definition, because when I search it up, the definition of it. I guess maybe it shows up 1 second here.
I mean, if you want to see a good video talking about this that uses this definition, I'm pretty sure you can look up. Hassan Piker did a video for TYT like a couple years back, I think, where he talked about the whole PewDiePie situation. He brought up the examples of PewDiePie being progressive like I have. If you want to see that, I believe he refers to him as a white moderate there, because that video is where I got most of my information about PewDiePie's politics prior to the more recent events that have happened after that video came out, like the Christchurch shooting and all of that.
Okay, just have to say I'm really sorry, because of the other debate. I really seemed like it. From what I could tell, it really seemed like you were basing your like argument that PewDiePie was a white moderate off of the quote, the Martin Luther King Jr. quote of what is a white moderate. So that's why I was a little puzzled there, because you used it in your last PewDiePie debate, but also the in another video.
Yeah, it just seems
And
like
that's why
white moderate is like the most generous. This is the problem. You have to understand that like in my community particularly, I've gotten like a ton of shit for, I guess you could say, defending PewDiePie. And so like white moderate is like the most generous description I can give of PewDiePie's tendencies when it comes to talking politics.
It's not the most generous.
Or
like,
acknowledging
just
the problems in his audience or
Because-
people tangential to it.
people in the alt-right took advantage of PewDiePie's controversies and took advantage of his missteps. Like, it's obviously like people are not perfect, right? And PewDiePie, we can't go into the mind of PewDiePie and always know what he's thinking, right? So who knows? He might be planning on making that type of video. Like, he was kind of going into that direction when he was, educating people about, how the alt-right, use Pepe to, make it a hate symbol, right?
Yeah, there were some parts that I think I might have responded to that video. I know Vosh did. But yeah, there were some parts of that video that were like a little iffy. Like, wait, why are you saying, the alt-right wasn't trolling, they were actually doing this thing. I think part of it definitely comes from his like lack of understanding of hate symbols.
Trolling.
No, he did.
Made it out to be a terrible thing.
No, he made it out to be a terrible thing because, Pepe is good and the alt-right is bad, or like Nazis are bad, but he did paint it out as them trolling, like they're trying to troll people. That's not really what it is. If you do something to signal being alt-right or a Nazi, it's not really trolling anymore, you're just doing it.
From, right? The origin was to basically see, basically the idea was to claim it, and then and make everyone else,
What do you think happens when a
claimed
symbol is claimed to be a hate symbol by Nazis?
Well, it's the same thing as I forget what it was called. There was something with the Twitter thing where and I don't know if it was you or another YouTuber who said don't give this attention because that's what they want. I forget what it was specifically. It was something on like like the alt-right replying to like tweets about something like I forget what it was. I forget what it was for. It was something specific about what was I trying to get at here? What were we talking about again? Sorry, I lost it for a second there.
Okay, you were talking about like the alt-right responding to PewDiePie speaking out against them.
Okay, so I guess I'll just say I was trying to base my argument off of what I thought was your best argument that was in the PewDiePie debate that you had, the last one you had, about, the Martin Luther King Jr. quote. I thought that was your, apparently you put your argument as he needs to call out racism instead of just being against racism, right? Make a statement against the alt-right.
It's not. So here's the issue, though, and I want to clarify this very strongly because I imagine if I don't clarify this, people are going to be confused. At least like those that aren't already fans of me will be confused. I don't think that if it's just Nazis exist, that a content creator is like obligated, in my opinion, to speak out against them. My main concern, my main issue, is the fact that the Nazis believed that he was one of them and used PewDiePie essentially as like a wedge issue, I guess you could call it. Like, oh look, PewDiePie got censored by the crazy left or whatever, and then tried to look into or use some of his actions to try to say, oh, he's one of us, that's the issue. It is because of the fact that PewDiePie has made these oopsies in the past that has made the alt-right think he's one of their guys, or their guy, as they like to say, that I think he needs to speak out against them. If he was just like, oh, big YouTuber, the alt-right exists, I wouldn't be calling for him to, like, have to disavow them or anything like that. I don't think that's, like, reasonable for every YouTuber to have to, or anybody with a large platform to have to speak out against the alt-right. That seems unreasonable to me.
Okay. Okay, so... Okay, that's good. So you agree... You do agree with that he... Okay, so let me go back to this. But you would agree that PewDiePie does agree with the methods of direct action, and he has done direct action by supporting the protests and the Black Lives Matter, right? And trying to help people who are oppressed. Do you agree with that, at least?
For the most part, yeah. He did, like, say rioting is bad, but I mean, that's something you have to say as a public figure, so I won't really, like, get on him for that. It's possible he does think rioting is justified, but, like, I'm not gonna psychoanalyze that.
Yeah, the last question, well, not the last question, but this question I'll ask. So then, since obviously, like you said, the definition of white moderate has changed, but the old definition of white moderate, he would not be the old definition of white moderate.
Maybe not.
No.
Jesus fucking Christ, why do I keep getting pinched in this hallway so bad? Jesus fuck. Oh my god, hold on. I need a second, okay? Oh, no. God, you're so fucking... I really want to skip Dark Souls 2, chat. Can we skip Dark Souls 2? I really don't like it. I'm skipping Dark Souls 2. We're going to Dark Souls 3. I'm skipping Dark Souls 2. I really hate this game. It's the worst Dark Souls game. It's so sluggish and so shitty. Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, what were you saying?
Okay, is it fine if I repeat the question then?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so would you agree that obviously, like you said, the definition of white moderate changed throughout time because obviously under the context, but the old definition of white moderate would not fit PewDiePie?
Yeah, probably not. In most cases, I would say no.
Yes
At least up until it's not as simple as a yes or no question. Don't try to pigeonhole me. Up until that statement that he made in favor of BLM and whatnot, he hadn't really spoken out strongly in favor of direct action against racism and whatnot. Up until the release of that clip or whenever that came out or whatever, I would say it does apply to him, but not anymore. Probably not after he definitively spoke out in favor of BLM.
Okay, so yeah, right now. No, I won't try to make it two options. Okay, I'll try to. Okay, so then I'll try not to make it a yes or no. I'll just say, like, where are you leaning closer to, a yes or a no? You know, like how they would have like a compass or whatever, you know.
Right.
Compass
So are you asking right now, do you think the definition applies to him?
Like maybe like what, like, yeah.
Right
like
now, currently, no. I don't think the old definition of white moderate applies to him.
Okay, and that's it. But I just want to say thank you for having me on. So I do agree with you said about that PewDiePie needs to call out the alt-right. Obviously, like I said, I kind of giving me a little bit of hope, but have kind of a little bit of a doomer mindset. Joe Biden is supposed to be president. Joe Biden's president, not Bernie Sanders. So I kind of have a doomer mindset, even though I'm Canadian. But anyways, kind of have a doomer mindset.
Can I help you with your doomer mindset for a bit? So Bernie Sanders came to prominence and had more voters in 2016 after 8 years of Obama, 8 years of tepid neoliberalism, than he had in 2020 after 4 years of a fascist being in power. Having a literal fascist in power scares liberals away from radical socialism or more radical change. So having another tepid neoliberal in office gives us the opportunity to radicalize more libs and more center-left-leaning people to somebody like Bernie Sanders or somebody like AOC or somebody like Nina Turner in the future. So be excited for that because we've got at least 4 years of hard work to do to radicalize more libs and even radicalize or de-radicalize alt-righters more towards the left in order to make sure that a more progressive candidate can win in 2024.
Yeah. I just want to say also, well, I guess I'm gonna say a little bit more because I just want to say like also thank you, like again for having me on, but also obviously like because I know there's okay, so yeah, I just want to say thank you for having me on to debate this because I guess I kind of was mistaken, right? I got a little bit mixed up, but so at least I have confirmation about that one thing about the old definition and how obviously the definition has changed throughout time of the definition of white moderate. So it's, I just want to say thank you for educating me on that there.
Yeah, no problem. Can I actually? I think there's a term that refers to the I think disconnect that we have here. So have you ever heard of linguistic absolutism?
No, like that's new to me.
Okay, so the idea is that like words or definitions for words and phrases in language evolve over time. So a linguistic absolutist, remind me, Chad, if I'm getting this wrong, could be the other way around. A linguistic absolutist would believe that a word should always mean what it was originally meant to mean. A good example of this is the term
It
simp.
evolves.
Yeah, words evolve,
Doesn't that
right?
make an argument for so many other words and definitions of other words?
Sorry, repeat that?
If you're saying that like the definition of words evolve, couldn't that happen? Obviously, that happens with other words, right?
Yeah. Like, for example, and I've used this in the past when I used to defend using the R slur, which I don't do anymore, but like the term idiot used to mean mentally disabled. It doesn't mean that anymore. We use the term idiot to refer to just being dumb, right? It's synonymous with dumb or stupid, right? However, there's a better example of this. It's more modern, right? Simp. Simp is a word I believe that originates from LGBT people of color. That's the community it refers to. Sucker, idolizing, mediocre pussy is what it meant. It was like somebody who was like seriously like in love with somebody. But now the term simp, because more people have adopted it, the definition has changed. People use the word simp now to refer to basically just being nice to a woman. Or even being nice to a dude. People use simp to refer to somebody who's simping for a dude now. The definition of words change over time. Same goes for a term or a phrase, in this case, that originates from the 60s, that definition isn't completely applicable or broad enough for today, because nowadays we have things like YouTube content creators and the alt-right and different countercultural movements going on. So that's why the term white moderate doesn't nowadays strictly refer to its old definition coined by Martin Luther King Jr.
Okay, so I might think this might be a little bit of a dumb question, even though I think I already know maybe what you think of, but so I guess you believe that, right? Obviously, the definitions of words, right? You like you said they evolve, so you don't believe obviously that words have no meaning, right? Because obviously words, you believe that words have meaning and they evolve, right? The definition.
Yeah, the
you
words
said.
have meaning. The meaning can just evolve and change depending on how it's
Yeah,
used.
that's why I said it was kind of a dumb question, but I just had to double check.
No, don't worry.
Anyway,
If you have a question, you can ask me. Oh, sorry. I haven't eaten today, so for some reason, like I think I'm having acid reflux. So I haven't eaten yet today, but yeah, no, I completely understand the confusion there.
oh, thank you for educating me on that, and yeah, I just want to say thank you very much. I'm a fan of the channel, so.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Do you want to like shout yourself out or anything like that? Is there anything you want to say before you go? Oh, can you say trans
Yes,
rights first? People wanted me to ask you to say trans rights.
what?
People wanted me to ask you to say trans rights.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I have no problem saying that. Trans rights, trans rights.
Hell yeah. 3 is the
Also-
magic number.
No problem. So what was I gonna say? So yeah, thank you, but thank you for the debate. Like for me being able to be on this debate. Like I said, I'm a fan of the channel. So what were you saying again before that?
I was asking you if you had any questions or you wanted to like shout yourself out, like anything you want to say before you go.
Well, yeah, it's like you said, like about people starting channels, right, to help. So obviously, like I'm a little, yeah, like so like obviously it's better to have progressive channels, right? Like give a platform to progressive channels than like regressive ones, giving them an audience, right? Like so, yeah, my channel is. So you said I could shout out my channel or something?
Yeah, if you want to, yeah.
Okay, the Oat Crasher. Is it fine if I spell it out?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. You're good.
PHEOATCR. PERASHER, just in case, because sometimes people can get words mixed up, right? You know, how it's spelled or whatever, right? Like even with your name, right, Alexander Hall? Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on today. It's been fun chat, fun debate. My To summarize my main argument, I just want PewDiePie, or it would have been better if he did it a while ago, but it would still be I can't speak. Applicable now. If PewDiePie spoke out against like these bad actors that are tangential to his community, I think it's less bad now. I haven't seen alt-writers. Maybe it's just because it hasn't been as relevant, but I haven't seen alt-writers being like super like saying he's their guy more recently. But especially from the beginning of 2019 and the beginning of 2020, somewhere around there, it would have been great if he had spoken out against these people. I'd still be happy if he did it now, but that would have been when I would have preferred he did it.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, alrighty. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Alrighty. See you later.
Yeah.
I feel like he just like was really hung up on the definition of white moderate. That's my Delinky. Oh, I think it's linked to his YouTube channel. Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel like the problem that he had with me was me using the term white moderate to refer to him. But when he looked up the term white moderate, he found Martin Luther King Jr.'s definition. And I want to go more into detail about this now before I wrap up not the stream, the video. So when Martin Luther King Jr. coined the term white moderate, this was back during the 60s. Things were really, really different back then. So you have to remember that, like, we didn't have YouTubers. We didn't have this terminally online thing called the alt-right that was radicalizing people through the internet to commit literal acts of terror. And we didn't have large YouTubers anybody who could just broadcast themselves to the world and end up being like a massive public figure. And we didn't have those massive public figures that were being supported sort of through proxy by the alt-right and being used as like a political pawn almost. So that's why I use the term white moderate. It's not necessarily referring to him being unwilling to speak out against racism. He's done that before. Even before I called him a white moderate. I've known about this. I've argued that PewDiePie is not a Nazi before, much to the disdain of my own audience. But yeah, it's just more so about him not speaking out against these problematic elements that sort of cultivated in his audience. But yeah, that was pretty good. If you're new to my channel and you want to see more from me, make sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon so you get notified when I actually upload or go live. You can also like the video. It helps the video a lot, gets it spread around. It's just nice to have. You can also follow me on Twitter through the link in the description down there. Same goes for joining my Discord if you want to debate me too. That's the best place to do it. That's the best way to contact me. As well as if you have any extra money sitting around you don't need for anything else, you can always subscribe or donate on the website here, xanderhall.com/live. Or if you're feeling very generous, you can also become a channel member by clicking the join button on YouTube or pledging me on Patreon. It's all very appreciated. Thank you so much for watching and have a good one.